a female-only breakfast in our coffee shop at Masjid Taqwa, and we really are very honored to have, let me say this,
beautiful ladies, and just looking at the demographics, young, the elderly. It's such a beautiful, community day, and just women sharing experiences and just having conversations with one another. It just looks very vibey and excellent,
yes,
mashallah.
and at Masjid Taqwa we really, strive to get the community together and, to connect. So I think our job is to try and create the opportunities for people to come to the masjid, to meet with friends, and to just, you know, connect, and especially on a Sunday. Um, the ladies out in the kitchen, so
Beautiful,
what better
beautiful.
way than to spend it with your friends and your loved ones, and also supporting Masjid Taqwa.
It is beautiful, mashallah. I'm very proud of you, the leadership, Sheikh, and everyone else who's been able to put this together.
Yes, we do have to acknowledge our leadership. They are quite visionary in what they want to achieve, and they've really set out intentionally to create this. Both Sheikh and the board of directors are really instrumental in what you're seeing today. And as promised, after this, we'll take you on a tour.
I'm looking forward to it.
And just in our conversation, just for our listeners and the people streaming, MEC Gadija Brown is from PE. She's a banker, and as I said, they say once a banker, always a banker,
Right? Right.
and has been sworn in as MEC in the financials, in Treasury in the Bloemfontein area. So it's not a loss because you always have your ties back right home, right?
Right,
As you're telling
absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. Mom still lives here, my sister is still here, got all my aunties, uncles here, still contributing much to the community. So we know, and I have an update of everything, and it's always wonderful to come back and to contribute to the environment that I flourished in, I grew up in, and I can only, give it back to the ladies and the men and everyone who raised me, because it doesn't take an individual who raises a child, it takes a full community to raise, a village to raise a child, that's what they say. And this is the village that I was raised in, so I must say I have to give back to this beautiful community.
Well,
Alhamdulillah.
you know, just on that, we also look up to you um, as a role model and somebody that's on the forefront of politics, um, and a champion of women's rights. And maybe I want to turn the conversation now to ask, women's role in society is so important. We always say that the lap of the mother is the first madrasa or school. What is your, can we have a little bit of a conversation about, the role that women have to play in contributing to positive change? Because, things change, things evolve. And, as women, we also need to evolve. So, what is your take on how we as women should be contributing?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I think as a woman, um, we've got this ability to nurture. It's inherent in us. We are born with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that inherent. So before we make any decision, it is about nurturing. And that comes with the ethical, the humanity aspect, the ability to understand that no child should go without food. No woman should be left destitute, and no mankind or nation should be, oppressed. And that comes from our nurturing nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But if we have to look at the science of it, in South Africa, 52% of the population are women. And as we look at the younger generation, when we see the leadership of younger people coming in, 56% of young people are women. So, in order to deal with understanding how succession has to work in leadership and politics, we have to invest in women. But not only just from a political perspective, but a socio-economic perspective and a transformation perspective. Women ultimately, despite what you want to say, the husbands may be at the forefront of politics, the husbands may be head of the boardroom, It is just traditional because of a patriarchal system that was built for many, many years. But the women make those decisions. So when that board member or executive man comes home and says, I had a tough day, today we did A, B, C, D, it is the woman that says, no, you can't lay off so many people. Or no, we cannot, why don't you reduce their salaries and let them go on for a little bit and then, or no, I will support you, we're going to make this happen. No, you can never give up, whatever it may be. It starts there. So that encouragement, that support, once again, the nurturing, even if it's a husband, it comes from there. But Islamically too, and please forgive me, give me maaf if I am going to make any mistakes. But women were, Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha was the greatest support to our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there were women that were martyrs. There were women at the forefront of wars, warriors, and um, during our time in my teachings, there is nothing that a woman can't do that is able to shape or create any vision for any community. And it comes through starting with oneself, one's family, one's community, and then the world.
That's the
So
ripple effect. Yes.
that's how we take on politics. But most importantly, Islamically, your ahlak, the ability to be able to show leadership through who you are and the person that you are is much more important than any of the lights, any of the TV. And that Islam teaches us, no matter what. And it's all through this foundation, from where we come from, the teachings that I've received in this specific space. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I just want to touch on that and say that, very often we speak about leadership and people do think it's title. And mothers and women especially don't see that contribution to the home as a leadership trait that they have or contributing to leadership. So it's very, good to know that, it's the ripple effect of having things done and the awareness in the home that ripples into the community, that ripples into the world, into the world. So it all does start at home. And so that means that women also need to understand their role, that they are not just in the kitchen. They are busy raising the next leaders, because when people go out there, they always have to, and they always do, they always fall back to what they were taught and their value system, which is taught at home. And I think that's a really important, aspect of parenthood, of being a female, that is sometimes lost in the day-to-day life. So thank you for bringing that and touching on all of that. So, just to feed off again of that, what the role is of a woman. What is your advice and advocacy on the solidarity for Palestine? Because now more than ever, people always say I'm not political, and so they don't bother to go and read or talk. But now you have the children coming in, and forces women to actually sit up and take notice because the children are asking questions. So, what is the woman's role in the advocacy now for Palestine, which is really a very pertinent role right at this moment?
Absolutely. So if I can approach it just by bringing it home, my 11-year-old son would look at me and say, Mom, is South Africa, I learned today, a natural science, South Africa has got the biggest gold reserves in the country. Why can't you keep the electricity? And that is because of his need to play games. He doesn't have that interaction. And when he says, Mommy, but you're an MEC, why can't you fix that? And why can't you tell me why we can't keep the lights on if we've got the biggest gold reserves? And even to that point, it is a complex question that requires a complex answer. And often we as moms would say, you ask too many questions, or you're too curious, or whatever it may be. But children have, and society, not only society, but generations and modernization and artificial intelligence and the 4IR has changed the way we approach the thought process and thinking. So the ability for young children at 3 years or 4 years old to stand up and say free Palestine, down with McDonald's, down with Israel, Satan Yahoo, instead of Netanyahu, is because they've got access at 3 or 4 years old to understand what this means in the bigger scheme of things. And for me, I think that keeping up with trends, we talk about trends, but the ability for this trending issue, and I'm going to go into the bigger picture later, but I just want to bring it back to our kids and home and why we have to answer and keep ourselves more, or ensure that we are more prepared as mothers, as women, and more involved in understanding world politics and the geopolitical environment, is because children don't believe that a baby comes with a stalk anymore.
Totally not.
They know, and they're very clear about what's happening in the world. And their trust and faith comes unconditionally when it comes to their parents.
Yes.
So, they can't believe that their parents would lie to them. The rest of the world can, but their moms and dads can't. So we've got a duty and to uphold some level of truth. And as a mother, I would say first and foremost, let's start by telling our kids, I don't understand, but let us go and learn about this together. That's number one. When it comes to politics, you may have your views and you may have an understanding of what you see, feel, and touch. But also, it's important to start asking those pertinent questions. What you see, feel, and touch, does this really translate to whatever outcomes you wanted to achieve? So often we say we are voting for a political party, but do we know where comes from? And do we understand what ideology is being driven through whichever political party? The past has taught us, history in politics, that people are just to industrialization and to capital. People are just laborers. They are just there. You educate them a certain way, you think a certain way, you create a consciousness a certain way. Islam teaches us to ask those questions, to understand the difference between the right and the wrong, to understand that if I have to contribute towards society, what am I contributing towards? When it comes to the issue of Palestine, the African National Congress, which is the oldest liberation movement on the continent um, since 1912, was born in Bloemfontein, the Free State. And that liberation movement, its policy is one thing. It's about humanity. It's about defeating oppression. It's about dealing with the interracialism. It is about understanding that a democratic society is every people in it. We are not going to divide or segregate society. And when you have an environment within South Africa or across the world, the West Africa, Cuba, Palestine, any continent or any society that this government or this party believes is being oppressed, we are going to stand up for the rights of those who are oppressed. We are going to deal with the humanity. And when you are seeing that you have one individual that is bigger, who thinks that they are bigger than the law of this world, than the international laws that are set out there, which we are seeing right now with that of the Israeli government, that is when we are going to stand up and we're going to call them out, and we're going to call them to. And alhamdulillah, we are so grateful, which I still feel still a lot still needs to be done. But after this week's ruling from the ICJ, that genocide indeed has occurred, that an issue of an arrest to the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, and that we should be having detailed reports coming in and an immediate ceasefire. Alhamdulillah, that's one step forward. But I still believe that this government, the Zionist government, may not necessarily abide to the laws of the ICC and the ICJ. And we're calling on all communities across the world to continue to what it is that we are doing, continue speaking about these atrocities, the oppression, the deaths, the innocent lives that have been taken, the children, the wiping out of an entire nation. Uh, I think we should still continue with added pressure so that we could place this at the point where we can see this regime change, we can find a sovereign state for Palestine, inshallah, and the freedom of our Palestinians as Palestine should be.
And as South Africans, we have every right to believe it will happen because it happened to us.
Yes,
So
indeed.
we must remain hopeful. And as Minister Pandor said last night, do not get frustrated with the process. And it happened to us, and it will happen to us. We should.
But Gadija, I want to say this, and as a leader, I think it will be amiss of me not to mention. In all honesty, our government, and I am a employee of the African National Congress, very proudly so. But there is still so much of work that we need to do after our freedom and after our democracy. We sit here in our democracy, inequality, where 8% of the most wealthiest in South Africa owns 80% of the South African wealth.
That's
We have to find mechanisms to breach that gap. We have to deal with the poverty issue. We have to deal with the unemployment issue. And it is an apex priority in our government. It's in an apex priority in our manifesto of the African National Congress. But we've got to do more. And inshallah, I am asking that as we fight for the freedom of our Palestinians, and they will be free as South Africa was, let us work on a South Africa that has their own people have ownership and control of the economy, and their own people can lead this environment towards what we want to. And their freedom comes with economic freedom too, inshallah. So I'm asking for the call on that, inshallah.
I support that because we all know that it's election times. That we know that we are holding up to the elections on Wednesday, and it is really good to know. And kudos to you to call out the fact that there is still a long way to go, and that our people are not only just one issue voters, but they should take the entire basket of goods that the government and civil society need to take us into the next step post-apartheid, because it is 30 years. People may be frustrated, but relatively, South Africa is a new democracy. We have learned along the way, and that we do need to understand that there is a lot more that is happening. There's a lot of good that has happened. We may be just our own spaces and where we are, but there is an agenda, for economic freedom for our people as well. Inshallah. So then moving on, because I also know that we have brought you here to feed you as well. But being a Muslim woman in government, just personally, I think most people from the Eastern Cape are really, in awe, not in awe, and very respectful of the place you hold. Um, and and we are very proud of you as a Muslim woman, unapologetic, because the values of your party and the values of our religion are very much intertwined. It is a values-based system and a values-based organization that you can pledge to. If the values are misaligned, you can't be as unapologetic as what you are. But with this public office comes so much more. So maybe you would like to tell us some of your experience of being a Muslim person in government and what the hope of, you know, encouraging others and other Muslim women especially to take up the score, because really true change depends 80%, I would say, on the policies of government. And whilst it is true that it is maybe a male-dominated society, there are so many women and Muslim women coming through the ranks. So tell us a little bit about how, about being a Muslim in government, because that is new for us.
So it starts with when you're sworn into office, you ask, do you want to take an oath or an affirmation? I wrote my little Quran, my English Quran, and I said, I'm going to take an oath because I've got my Quran here. I put my hand on the Quran, and then they would say, "Do you swear by the Almighty that you will serve this public office for me?" And then you put your hand on the Quran. The rest would put their hand on the one hand on the Bible and the other hand. So it started
Now we saw it on we see it on TV, so now we have a real live person who was there.
I'll send you a picture. So it was so beautiful for me to be able to have my little English Quran there and be able to do that. But that's the beauty of democracy and the beauty of what we've done. The Freedom Charter shows that we have got the right to practice religion freely. We are free to choose any religion. We are free to. Our constitution in itself teaches us to respect one another, no matter which religion, culture, race. And I am in a legislature or parliament, and I wear hijab, close myself completely during Ramadan, and nobody stops me. Nobody looks at me differently. If I need to rush away because it is Friday namaz time and then I'm running away for Salah, they are used to that already. Everybody is used to the halal idea, so when there's catering, they know either her team will bring us something or they will arrange for it. And also the respect that comes with being a Muslim woman. I mean, in politics, you may hear of so many different things where there are men and women and marriages and relationships, but coming into this position, being a Muslim woman, nobody would dare. They understand the boundaries. They know this is Khadija, this is who she is, and they respect my voice, respect just by being Muslim and our ethics and our love. They respect a decision, or if you have to deal with a council, or if you have to provide input, the respect that you have because it is an input that is not necessarily just out of emotive or consequence. It is about thoughts. It is about understanding, and it's about just society. And it's because of who we are as Muslims as a whole. There are often, very different notions towards the radicalism of Islam. And I think the terrorist issues, they do, I mean, you travel across the world, I travel with governments, and often you find that you're wearing a scarf and they call you to a corner and then they realize you're a diplomat. Okay, now you can go through. But it is just a little bit of some of those aspects that you see around the world that is not as far, if I could call, democratically as we are in South Africa. Even in Africa, as an example, I was at a CPF for Women's Commonwealth study, and African women are not as well represented Islamically as we are in South Africa. We are also, I also find that from an Islamic perspective, going into negotiations as well, be it human rights negotiations, environmental negotiations, there's a lot of more respect when it comes to your input. So Alhamdulillah, I think also the ideology of what it is that the African National Congress has brought us to, from a Muslim perspective, is a lot to what Islam is and what we would want to see from a GCC perspective, from the Arab world, from the Islamic world, and our alliances and our policies and our trade agreements. And I'm very proud to know that through BRICS, we have invited Saudi Arabia, we've invited the UAE, we have invited Iran to be part of our BRICS Plus. And that then talks to a fundamental change in structure in our economy and the world economy that is going to bring society and the world closer to understanding that westernization is not everything.
Don't you find that, with the whole Palestine issue, was always like the ideology of the West, ideology in itself
Right.
is not the be all and end all, and doesn't determine whether you are a flourishing or even civilized nation at this point.
Absolutely. It's polarized the world completely, and you have to make a choice. And I often tell students when I give them any lectures that we learn from the West. Uh, all the 10-year research that you have to do at universities, I see the young people here. They say it must be less than 10 years or 5 years, and it's got to be from here, Oxford, this, that. No longer does the world see that as the way to go. They're saying let us look at other nations and let us find solutions for Africa, for the African child through other ways and other means and other nations. So Alhamdulillah, we have found that Palestine has given us a gift. They've given us the gift of being able to restructure our narrative and our mind and our thinking. And I see all the ladies nodding because it's so beautiful to see you so involved in the politics of what this world and this restructure that this world is happening. So whilst we're in that, get our children ready. Know that we are going to have sanctions from the West. We are going to have sanctions from America. It's going to get difficult. It's going to affect inflation. It's going to affect your back pocket. The cost of bread, oil, your rotis are going to be a lot more expensive. But we will do it for ourselves. We cannot be an island on our own. But this, when we can start to understand as South Africans, we can manufacture. We can have clothing. We don't have to always buy and understand that the American apple is the best or whatever it may be. We've got to find mechanisms to understand that there is new worlds of trade, new worlds of working, and in that way, it's going to be difficult. Our economy is going to take a slump for a bit, but hang in there, inshallah. The upturn will come in once we have got the capability to ensure that we can. And our policies of government is about there to ensure that we deliver on growth, inshallah.
Inshallah. And it's really a point to note is that as a community and as women, we are resourceful. And, the same as the women in Palestine out of nothing, they are feeding the children out of nothing. They are cooking food and surviving. And the same will go for us. We are resilient people. And I'm sure we will adapt and do things differently as we forge ahead to a better South Africa, more economic opportunities for our ladies and for our people. So just on that one, MEC, we are so grateful for your your two gifts that you wish to. So we are looking forward to that. So maybe you want to tell our listeners and our ladies here what it is that you have personally committed to the ladies of Gadija.
So first and foremost, let me just start by congratulating and saying to Sheikh Mukhtar Raban and the board and the team and the ladies chairperson of the ladies committee, Auntie Adila, mashallah, I am exceptionally impressed with what I've seen. I grew up at Masjidul Taqwa. This was my Fridays when I was on holiday, or prior to that, I would run in on a Friday just to come make namaz and be with the community. It was such a homely environment. So I'm exceptionally excited to see what the team has built, and the commercial part of it is so beautiful because you're uplifting the community, not only just gathering the community to share ideas, but also allowing the community to form part of the patronage that needs to happen. So, inshallah, the first gift that I'd like to give the ladies committee, inshallah, is that I will work with the team to go through a funding program where we can develop SMME development or young girls, even technology, where government will fund the NGO or the entity and do a process of 12 months going through a full program, inshallah, and have this committee really run that and uplift the women and the young girls, inshallah.
Shukran so much. I mean, that is just priceless.
So, shukran. So that is from our office. So that comes from the government side. But personally, I've got a small foundation. So I would like to offer my time as well for the year. Once a month, I want to talk and have other come down, have a ladies SMME development program, but also a financial literacy program so that you can be financially independent and talk about young women being able to save, invest, do it for themselves, Sharia mechanisms, like your society schemes, how do you invest and then, draw the money and then do whatever it is that you need, what is a good asset, how to have a Sharia compliant world. But most importantly, my time would be on access to young women and women on your businesses. So if you want to still, for example, sew scarves or um, make spies and samosas for sale. How do you manage that little business? How do you deal with cash flow? How do you keep stock? And how to also look for funding. If you need funding to purchase equipment, a sewing machine or whatever, where to go to, so that you too have access to government uh, opportunities. You are recognized as previously disadvantaged individuals. Anyone who is black, Indian, colored, or Chinese who are residents of South Africa have got a different type of policy to have access, and everybody else has access to this funding through various forms. What stops any of you from having access at any given age to the funds that government has got for all of us as citizens of South Africa? So that's what I'd like to do, inshallah. So even if it's on a Zoom, or if I am around, but it will be a set day at a set time every month, inshallah. It will be like a program. The one week we'll do, 1 month we'll do on National Empowerment Fund. The other week we'll do on small enterprise funding agency. The other week we will do with Old Mutual or Vodelend or whoever, because they also do that different. So we'll do something like a series, and we'll sit down and we'll help you with the applications. We'll email the applications. We'll do it very practically so that everybody has access to that information, inshallah.
Shukran, that is extremely generous of you, not just from government perspective, but also of you giving your time, because time is also very short on your side. So we really appreciate the commitment
I'm
from
very
your side.
excited about Auntie Adila, and I will contribute and support this community. We can see the change that women can make in society, and that is ultimately, alhamdulillah, if we can reach as many for our legacy and the children after us and the grandchildren after us.
I mean,
It will be a beautiful legacy
that
to
is also
leave
our,
behind.
that is
Inshallah.
the vision for Master Kafa, and then it's also
Ameen.
personal vision, I think, for every single woman, whether they are mothers or not, but just to leave a better society, one that enriches everybody, especially our women who try very hard, to better themselves. So I think we can conclude this,
Yes, but before we
because
do,
yes,
can I just give a message from Minister Naledi
yes, of
Pandor?
course,
So the minister stayed until 10:30. Was it 10:30
yes,
last night?
almost
10.
11.
She took photos with everybody yesterday. She was so excited to be part of the entire community. It was the first time that she was here, and I think for me it was a great honor to have hosted her in my hometown, to meet all of you, and you have really represented us well. Everybody who was there last night really shown her what a beautiful Islamic community can achieve and can do. So for a minister to not rush away as soon as her keynote was done, she stayed right until the vote of thanks, and she still took photos. I can tell you that despite her being on a plane this morning at 8:30 and being awake for after a very very late night, her passion and her drive is driven through the commitment and what she's experienced through everything that we've experienced yesterday. So on behalf of the minister, and I know that she loved being here. She said that to me. This is beautiful, Gadija. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am going to come back. She made a commitment to come back, and I think when she does, let us be prepared and let us show her that our commitments that we've made yesterday, towards what it is that we want to see South Africa achieve, is there. And I'm just so happy that you could all spend a moment with her, and I would say that she was extremely happy to have spent that time with all of you. So shukran to everybody for being there, and shukran to the Young Hearts of Palestine and the team and everybody else who put it together, and it was such a beautiful event.
It was a beautiful event, and we really also were doing what do they call it? Crushing hard on fan,
Oh, yes.
big fan girl crushing, not just from the ladies, but from the gents as well. I see they were also rushing to have pictures, but we are very, very privileged to have had her. She's total legend, and at 70 years old, for her to dig deep on the campaign trail, it can only be driven by one thing. It's the conviction that she is where she is, and she's fighting for for her party to win and our party to win. So in conclusion, MEC, I want to wish you well. I know that you are still on the campaign trail, so I wish you and our party well, and a positive end result.
Shukran, Auntie Adila. And call us out as the party. Get the women to do those checks and balances, have those conversations. And when you feel things are not okay, come tell us so that we could work on it. And when we are doing things well, let us appreciate
Celebrate
those
those two.
efforts.
Yes.
Shukran
So we
much for
certainly will
everything.
do that, and I think now we'd like to feed you. It's
Oh,
a
yes,
fair
I
exchange.
can't
for,
wait. I can't
it's a
wait
fair
for that. It
exchange
looks
for
delicious.
having you,
It looks
for
so
having you
delicious.
here. So from all of us, we say shukran so much for taking the time out, and we look forward to hosting you again. So next time you are in our neck of the woods, you are going to be always welcome here, and we look forward to you visiting our masjid, and not just bumping in and out because you don't want anybody to see you. Let us know, and we'll really just welcome you here.
It's beautiful.
So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and really I wish you well.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thanks for having me.
It is our absolute pleasure.